I was pretty disappointed when I found out that Arlecchino doesn't work well with Furina. Since Furina is one of my favorite characters to use, she just became one of my most comfortable units. And when they showed Arlecchino's kit, I was pretty disappointed because she literally is an anti-Furina character. I mean, it also makes sense because lore-wise, she tried to kill her, man. And she was just playing with a cat. Why are you trying to kill her? Leave her alone.
Please don't kill me. I'm begging you, please.
Yeah, that scene still hits me pretty hard. Goddamn. Come on, that's the lore, right? But no, HoYoverse actually goes serious mode now, and I even think that they just want to do a drastic meta change, or more like a evolvement. People have been using the same characters for over like 2 years or something. If you take a look at the past Spiral Abyss most used characters, it's always the same ones. Being the top 5, Zhongli, Furina, Neuvillette, Kazuha, and probably Nahida. Not gonna talk about leaks, but you guys probably know where I'm going with this. That they introduced Bond of Life as a new mechanic into the game, into character kits. Feels like a direct counter to Furina players, or more like all the heal teams that we are used to. But hey, I'm stubborn, I really like to play Furina, she is just my comfortable character to play. Her pets are just way too useful and they do so much damage, so I made it my mission to experiment with some teams where Arlecchino and Furina can actually work together. And it was actually pretty difficult to find characters where it doesn't feel like you're interrupting Arlecchino's on-field time. The biggest problem why Furina and Arlecchino don't work well together is simply that Arlecchino cannot be healed. It's literally in her passive abilities. And the only way to heal Arlecchino would be her burst ability, which you should never use because you want the most damage out of your Bond of Life. And since Furina also decreases HP from your whole team, that would also mean that we would need another healer in the team. But then the other issue is, okay, you can heal every team member except the one on the field, which is Arlecchino. So that also means you probably need a shielder. And that's already 4 spots taken if you think about it. There's 1 shielder, 1 healer, Furina and Arlecchino. Now some people might say, hey, this sounds actually like a pretty decent team. And yes, these teams are actually decent. The problem here is just that it feels counterproductive, being the issue that you could have used a Kazuha or a Yelan or a Chevreuse or anybody else who can buff up Arlecchino's damage and just use 1 shielder. Playing Furina with Arlecchino just feels like you require so many team members specifically for them to make it work. And there's only a few characters that feel like it actually makes sense to put them in these teams. The goal here is to put in characters that don't feel like you're interrupting Arlecchino's on-field time. Which means you need a healer who basically heals your whole team off-field. Which the best characters for that are probably Baizhu, Jin, Xianyun. Sadly, the other healers are pretty bad because most of them just only have single target healing. But of course, if you just change your playstyle a bit more, just feels a little bit more clunky, you can make the other healers work as well. I just really prioritize game flow, so it doesn't really feel like I'm interrupting doing damage with Arlecchino. First team I want to show you guys is Arlecchino, Furina, Zhongli and Baizhu. I feel like Thoma would be a better choice maybe, but my Thoma is just not built very well. I just feel very comfortable with Zhongli. Also his elemental skill decreases resistance from enemies, which also gives you a decent damage buff. So it's not that bad to use him. And also his shield is just very convenient and very strong. With Zhongli you just press E once and the whole domain, you basically are fine and can go all out with Arlecchino. And that's pretty much team number 1. I don't really have a good rotation right now, but you need Furina's pets out, then you just use her ult, and hopefully then you can heal with Baizhu, which actually heals the whole team. And hopefully you also have a C2 Furina, because this is probably also very important. Mine is C2, and she just gains fanfare stacks way easier. Now maybe it could also work for C0, but it's probably harder, and you should probably not even play Arlecchino with Furina if you don't have constellations of Furina. Feel free to try this out. Sadly, I cannot really try this out because mine is C2. I really feel like HoYoverse is trying hard to make Furina not synergize with future characters. So yeah, you could also go for Thoma. I'm gonna do 1 run with Thoma. I guess in the normal domains, it doesn't really matter because they don't do that much damage. But for the boss fights, especially for the new one versus Arlecchino, Thoma's shield is nothing, man. It's just way too weak. Also, he's dead. As you can see, I already tried it and he died. But let's do 1 round with him. if you have C6 Thoma, he's gonna increase your damage by 15% because he's gonna increase normal attack, charge attack, and plunging attack by 15% if you have a shield active. Now let's see. Zhongli is pretty much better versus Geo constructs, I guess. Like, these kind of shields are so annoying. Oh man. You can see already that shield is gone from Thoma, and these are literally just healy churl enemies. They destroyed my shield so easy. And we are also missing the defense reduction from Zhongli to the enemies, because his E ability is actually pretty decent for damage buff, kinda. This team just doesn't feel as comfortable as the Zhongli team because shield just breaks way too easy. My Thoma isn't built at all basically, but if you have a decent Thoma, maybe that's better. But let's move on to team number 2, which is a Xianyun team, because Xianyun's ult is really good for stacking fanfare, which probably will also help if you have a Z0 Furina. Xianyun's ult lasts like for 15 seconds and it's healing constantly. One thing I want to mention though is that it kind of feels like a waste to use the jump mechanic with Arlecchino because it just takes too long. As you guys can see, I don't really do that much damage. And if you just spam normal attacks, they're just super fast. In the time where you do one plunge attack, you could have done like 5 normal attacks and deal the same amount of damage. That's what I mean. So pretty much I would use Xianyun only as a healer. I wouldn't use her as a buffer, if you get what I mean. I just don't even use the jump mechanic from her because it's basically the same amount of damage if I either use one plunge attack. Also, I'm not a fan of plunge attack at all in general. I rather just spam normal attacks because Arlecchino probably has one of the fastest normal attacks in the game. But if you have some elemental mastery and you want to do the big wave numbers, of course, you could use the Xianyun jump attack, which I'm gonna show you guys one other team, the last one, because the other team actually utilizes elemental mastery for Arlecchino. Also gonna swap to Cyno's weapon here. I've been using Primordial Jade the whole time. Also gonna swap out the Sands to Elemental Mastery instead of attack. And this is the Diona team. And this team probably also only works if you have Constellations on Furina. Diona will only heal one character, and the character has to be on the field, and Arlecchino just blocks all the healing. So all you do in this team basically is do really big damage numbers. The cool thing here is that it's basically a freeze team. And you can also do like big melts or wave attacks. If you have C2 Kazuha, it's gonna be even more insane. Or if you have C6 Diona, she will give you another 200% elemental mastery. What am I doing? Alright, let's do this. And this team is actually pretty decent. Just one problem is that your team is gonna be below 50% most of the time. This team is more like for boss domains, I feel like, but for farming it's rather not that good. If you have C2 Kazuha and C6 Diona, you get actually 400 elemental mastery on your Arlecchino, which I would get like in 700 in total, and you can do really big attacks with that. These are the stats on my Arlecchino right now with the elemental mastery build. But yeah, my favorite teams with Arlecchino and Furina right now is either this one, Xianyun and Zhongli, or Zhongli and Jin could also work, or a Zhongli with Baizhu team, because these teams are actually pretty comfortable to play and you don't have to look at your below 50% HP characters the whole time, because Baizhu is gonna heal them up. But with the Xianyun team, it actually is also pretty comfortable because her ult just lasts very long and she will keep stacking these fanfare numbers up. Having Zhongli's shield is pretty much for me very necessary because I just want to feel comfortable and not get interrupted by enemies' attacks. which happens a lot. So it doesn't even matter how low Arlecchino is, because you're always gonna have Zhongli's shield as a safety measure. So this is why I pretty much would say Zhongli is a must-have if you want to play Furina and Arlecchino together. And these are the teams that I found so far. I would really appreciate it if you guys would let me know which teams are you using with Furina. Have you found any teams that work pretty well without stopping the game flow or feel interrupted with Arlecchino's damage? Let me know in the comments. I would be really interested to know that, because I want to keep using Furina in my teams and nothing will stop me on that. Also, if you found this helpful, give this a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content from my channel, make sure you stick around, subscribe, and I see you next time. Bye bye.
Could only one world, one love, but the battle goes on, shadows of mass destruction. Ooh, yeah. Do 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 do. Baby, baby. Do 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 do. Ooh, yes. Do 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 do. Baby, baby. Do 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 do.